dear friends all over, and today it's an honor to me to present to you a very special interview, which, as you know, is called Head or Heart, with an amazing personality in this music world, a personality with whom I worked already a couple of times. I had great concerts, great experience, great rehearsals, and in totally like great musical moments. And this personality is sitting right here next to me. This is Mr. Blomstedt. It's very kind of you giving a little space for this interview, and I'm really pleased and honored to have this opportunity to have some questions for you. So welcome, first of all. And the first question I do have is always pretty simple: head or heart?
What the question was, what?
Head or heart?
Head or heart?
Yes.
Well, we need both, I guess.
That's true.
But it's an interesting distinction. Only heart and no head is awful. But only head and no heart is even worse, somehow. So they belong together. I sometimes hear quite wonderfully gifted young musicians, especially violinists, that have lots of heart but no head. Mm. And I always feel like it's a fake. It's a fake. It can never really mature. But talent is there. Musical talent is there, and one cannot deny it. Once I had in Tokyo, 2 weeks after each other, two violinists. One had lots of heart but little head, and next week had both. It was a great difference between the two. And typically, the one with only heart, I forgot her name almost immediately. She played with great temperament, a difficult concerto, the Bartok, big Bartok concerto. And she was perhaps 25 years old. Her mother was in the hall,
okay,
always supporting and pushing her, and that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Mothers are wonderful, but they should be supported, more in the secret. They mean very much, of course. But if they only want to push their children to be famous or to be make headlines in the papers,
yeah,
it's the wrong way.
Yeah.
And this girl was like that. And in the rehearsal, she showed enormous temperament and stamped with her foot in the floor, and I tried my best to follow her and support her,
yeah,
which is my job. But it didn't mature very much. Next week, I had a little bit older girl. She was perhaps 30, 32. Very clever girl. I remember her name forever. I never met her once, but she was a complete person, not only fingers or temperament. And she had full control over her playing. Her name was Horigome, I never forget it. And she played the Dvorak concerto. It's a somewhat simpler concerto, perhaps from the violinistic point of view,
yeah,
but very demanding for the musical point. And she played wonderfully. And she had questions, and she was searching for perfection.
Okay.
And I think that made a difference. She was not searching for money or to please her mother or something like that. She wanted to please her own standards of music.
Okay.
So we certainly need both.
Yeah.
I remember my violin teacher. I had a wonderful violin teacher, a student of Kalflesch, and he was the concertmaster of the Gothenburg Philharmonic, where I was a student. And I remember the violin lesson was of great admiration. I admired him he had a plan in his teaching. Every violinist, one each week, started with Shevchik technical problems. And that's a big literature. Everybody violinist knows it. And then was a sonata movement or a concerto movement. And the lesson always ended with chamber music.
Okay.
And if he had a little music school with some other string players also. Often we could put together a string quartet the last 10 minutes of the lesson. And we played a Haydn quartet or something, a vista, no preparation.
Just sight reading.
Just to dive into the repertoire.
Yeah.
It was marvelous. And the room where we played was fantastic. It was my ideal of a music room. It was quite a big room in an old house, and there were books and scores to the ceiling, around all walls. Only for the window and for the door, but otherwise there were books all the way, from the floor to the ceiling. And in the middle of the room was two quartet music stands, like this. You can sit on one side here, on the other side with light, you could play in the night also. It was so romantic to play string quartet with just this light in there.
Very cozy.
Very, very cozy.
Okay.
And I decided that was what I wanted to do my whole life. I wanted to play string quartet every day. Perhaps have a family. My wife would be a good violin player. My brother was already there. He was a wonderful cello player. His wife could play the viola perhaps or something. And I imagine in my fancy, I would play chamber music until we stooped down from tiredness the whole day. Could never get enough.
But let's get back a little bit to some little questions. So head or heart, you say both belongs together.
Yeah.
But sometimes the head is front, I say first. Sometimes the heart is first. It depends. Another question I always had in my mind is from your childhood, when you were maybe 10, 11, was there, beside the music, which of course I guess was there from the very beginning, was there any hobby you had, like you really loved to do, like as a kid, like what was it? Sports. What something? Soccer.
When I was 10 years old, I lived in Finland.
Okay.
And that's a big ski country.
That's true.
Wonderful ski champions. And also schlittschuh, what is that? Skating.
Ice skating.
Ice skating. And that was what I really liked.
Yeah.
I liked school very much. All things in school interested me. Music did not interest me so much. I had a piano teacher who was a friend of my mother. My mother was a pianist. And he had a friend who taught at the Sibelius Academy.
Yeah.
And she taught me the piano. And I never really catched that. I thought it was too simple. The music she put on me was simple children's pieces.
Yeah.
I thought that was not really valuable.
So it was soccer.
So I was interested in going to the skating rink and skating instead after school. I heard my first concert in Finland. And I remember it very well. It contained the Unfinished Symphony by Schubert, and a great impression upon me. And then we moved back to Sweden, and then I got a real good violin teacher, but not the very best. I had 3 violin teachers in the city where I lived, and they were all more or less good, but did not really put me on fire.
Yeah.
But when we moved to Gothenburg, I was then 11 years old, 12 years old. They had a wonderful orchestra, the best orchestra at that time in the whole of Scandinavia, and a fantastic concert hall.
Yeah.
That has the best acoustic of all Scandinavian concert halls. wonderful concert hall. There is a book, by the way, perhaps some of our listeners know that, by Bolton Beranek. That's an acoustical firm in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the assignment to build a new concert hall in New York. The New York Philharmonic played always in the Carnegie Hall before, but so many orchestras played there, they wanted the hall on their own. And he built a new hall, and in order to build a perfect hall, he made a study of 100 concert halls in the whole world.
Yeah.
And made scientific reports. How long was it? What was the material in the wood? What was the material in the chairs and so on? And so all the details in columns, answer these questions. And that was one part. And the other part was what musicians said about the acoustics. Those who play there every day, and guests who play there only as a guest, how was the acoustic? What was it good, bad, all details? What was not so good? What was really bad? And then he put together the measurements and what the musicians thought.
The opinions.
And then he thought, now I know the key to the perfect concert hall. And he built the Avery Fisher Hall in New York, which turned out to be the worst concert hall in America.
Something went really wrong.
Yeah, but he produced a book, and I received the book as a present, 100 concert halls. And he numbered the acoustic best concert halls in Vienna, the Vienna Musikverein, where I often played, and I agree that is, for me, also the best hall.
Yes.
It's very difficult to play there because it's so sensitive, but it's wonderful hall. And the second best was the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam. It's also difficult to play there because you don't hear so well. It's far to the walls. But the sound in the hall is fantastic.
Yeah.
And the third one was Boston Symphony Hall, which is a copy of the old Leipzig Gewandhaus.
Yeah.
A wonderful hall. Perhaps you played there.
Yes.
It's a wonderful hall. And the fourth hall was in Gothenburg, where I live.
Oh.
The fourth best in the whole world was Gothenburg. And here I lived as a student. Here I went to high school, and from here I went to university and had such a wonderful violin teacher.
Okay.
That was a wonderful... And here I got on fire for music.
Okay.
Soccer didn't interest me at all after that.
But this was the question. Another question popped up in my mind because you dropped this sentence with the key, which was the key for the best acoustic. But my question is, I'm always wondered I'm astonished by your fire in terms of conducting, in terms of making music. And my question is, what is your key to this fire, or let's say the key to stay young? I feel you are young when you conduct, when we talk, still there is this fire. And what's the key? I think this is a question maybe a lot of people have working with you, meeting up with you. Do you have any recipe?
Well, of course, I heard that question many times.
Of course.
And it's a good question, because we all wanted to be in good health.
Yeah.
So it's a natural question, but there's no simple answer.
Yeah.
There's no simple answer. If you go for simple answers, it's easy to find, but then immediately you think it was not a good answer. For instance, don't smoke, because it's just a poison. But then you think of Winston Churchill, who smoked like a chimney until he was old. And he got 92 years old and was wonderful in shape.
That's true, but we don't talk about Winston, we talk about you right now. So, and I'm fine with these short answers. And if you say don't smoke, this is a pretty good answer. It can be, I always think an answer could be also just stay healthy, like do sports, play soccer. And I guess also an answer could be, what I was aiming for is, if you have a passion, what you obviously have, the music, this keeps you also there, or family, the kids.
Well, it must be something.
Yeah.
One thing is to keep poison as far away of you as possible. I never smoked. I'm a vegetarian. I never drink alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't even drink coffee because I see so many of my friends are need coffee in order to get started on the day.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be dependent on anything like that. But that's not the whole answer. It's just a part of the answer. But as you say, the more important thing are the positive things that you really do for it.
Yeah.
Lots of exercise. Use your free time in a good way. In a healthy way, because there's so many interesting things to be done, and you need a full power out to be able to do it. I was going to tell you about my violin teacher in Gothenburg. He said, when I finished high school, he said, now you have to go to university. Don't just go for putting your fingers in shape to be a virtuoso. You have to study music. Go to university, he said. What he meant that was a little bit more head. Is a good advice. Not only heart or interest. They must work together.
That's true.
We are playing Berwald these days, you and me playing Berwald together. Berwald said to his children, always put the ideas you become wonderful ideas under the control of your head. So you see, it is really good. This is good, and only if you can certify that it was really good yourself to certify that. Not anybody else tells you, but you have to certify yourself. Then accept it.
That's true. Another question I have, because I'm sure you saw a lot different countries, and most of the time you lived in Germany, also Scandinavia. But a simple question is, what is your favorite dish?
My favorite
dish to eat.
Eat.
Yes. Like when you think about which dish is popping up right there in your mind, what you say, this one I really love to eat. Always.
I have 4 daughters, and I like them very much. The youngest is a fantastic cook. And when she cooks for me, I think every meal is my favorite dish. She creates favorite dishes for me. For instance, she has a dish where she can porridge. What is that in English? Leek. I think leek. A sort of onion, with long tails.
Yes.
And she puts that together with cheese and bakes it in the oven.
Okay.
It tastes fantastic.
It sounds so simple.
Fantastic, yeah. And many try to do the same, but it is not the same. She has something with some special
recipe.
Some things she adds to it that makes it especially good.
Secret.
My mother used to serve us. I never forget that dish. In August and September, in Stockholm, was the time for tomatoes.
Okay.
You could not in the 1940s and 50s have tomatoes all year round. Now you can any time you have fresh tomatoes from all places in the world. But then in Sweden you can have it only when it was harvest time for tomatoes. That was August and September. And she used to buy big quantities. And my favorite dish, what she made, was to fry tomato slices in the frying pan, and then with some cream above it. Tastes fantastic.
Well, you had like both dishes pretty simple and fantastic, often like it is. Okay, and another question, which is also not that easy to answer, because of course a lot possibilities will pop up your mind, I'm sure. But is there any great moment, like if you remember, or like if you sit down, you relax, like a moment you love to think about is, which is always, you know, like heating up your heart, and like something very special you love to remember and to think about?
I tell you two moments that are coordinated.
Yes, please.
When I was 13 years old, perhaps, in the summer holidays, I spent with my grandparents, who were farmers, far up in Swedish woods. On Sunday, we had a little radio receiver, small, telefunken.
Yeah.
Not bigger than this, by bakelit, brown, where you can turn something there, you can get different stations.
Yes.
It was very primitive.
Something what the youth doesn't know today anymore. Yeah.
And then I could tune into Deutschland Sender.
Okay.
In Cesen, outside Berlin, Cesen. And on Sunday morning there were symphony concerts.
Oh.
At 10 o'clock, always, 10 o'clock, 10 to 11. And from 11 to 12 there was unser Schatzkästlein, musikalisches Schatzkästlein, unser treasure hour, you know.
Yeah.
And they played chamber music, then the favorite chamber music. And in the orchestral hour, once I heard something that sounded like this. With orchestra, I mean, I knew that piece from the piano. I could play the piano a little bit, and I know that Mozart piece, you know, I loved it. But here, for orchestra, it sounded so beautiful, incredible, beautiful. And after they were finished, the radio man said, "You heard the Mozart variations by Max Reger." Played by the Sächsische Staatskapelle Dresden unter der Leitung von Karl Böhm. Oh, I thought, that was heaven. I never heard something that beautiful in my life.
Yeah.
I never forget it. And the second part is 40 years later, or 30 years later, I stand in front of this orchestra in Dresden. I hear it with my own ears.
Yes.
Oh, incredible how they sound. Is it possible to create such sound? How do they do it? It was a great moment.
Yeah, I believe so.
And then the orchestra asked me to be their music director. I couldn't believe it. I was just, I was 40 years old, so I was not so young anymore, but the first time I was in Germany, and they asked me to be music director of this, my favorite orchestra. It's not possible. And it's an orchestra, an opera orchestra, and I had never performed any opera. How could I fill that position?
No, but anyway, it's kind of a dream became true.
Yeah.
with the gap of 30 years in between.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Amazing. And also you kind of gave an answer, because I asked myself these days, what made you differently, when was, or what happened, what led you to this point of deciding I want to become conductor, I want to conduct, I want to be with an orchestra and perform this way the music? And it sounds like an answer, because you listened to music and then probably this was the dream to do this one day.
I don't want to disappoint you, because this was a very late thing for me.
Oh, okay.
As a teenager, I never dreamt of being a conductor.
Yeah.
I went to 2 symphony concerts a week in Gothenburg, this wonderful hall.
Yeah.
2 symphony programs I heard for every day, school week during the year. I don't know how many 100 concerts I heard with them. Yeah. It was almost like a drug.
Yeah.
I loved this music. But I don't remember the conductors at all. They didn't interest me.
Okay.
They probably were not so good.
Okay.
But with the orchestra, I remember every name of the player.
Okay.
Every name I remember, even today.
Yeah.
What do you think? The third trombone, for instance, his name was Lohengrin Cremonese. And you never forget that. Lohengrin Cremonese.
It's like Italy and Germany together or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
Just an example.
Yeah.
I came to the conservatory in Stockholm after high school, and there I had also a good violin teacher. I played in the orchestra. I was even concertmaster of the conservatory orchestra. I loved it, but I didn't dream of becoming a conductor. I dreamt of playing a string quartet every day.
Yeah, this is what we do.
And then I had to play the organ, and I got very infatuated with the organ. When I discovered that Bach had written music for the organ also. I didn't know that. I knew all his partitas as lot for violin. I know them by heart.
Yeah.
But that he had written such music also for organ. So I wanted to play the organ.
Yeah.
And I became an organist. And I dreamt to become a cantor in a nice church and play a Bach cantata every Sunday. That was my dream.
Yeah.
Long before I started to conduct.
Well, so actually it sounds like what we would call today, you always went with a certain flow. Like you felt you want to be a violinist, you want to play chamber music, so you went into it, but then you discovered something new, which was the organ.
Yeah.
And so the day obviously came where you discovered to conduct.
And at the conservatory, I had to have one semester also of voice training.
Yeah.
I hated opera singers. And then heard the radio. I thought that was not music.
Yeah.
I hated it. But here I got the voice teacher, and I sang in the choir, and there was a new world opening up with wonderful music. Also the opera and the choir of the Bach motet was a fantastic experience. So slowly it matured to me, and I applied to the conducting class, and then of course it was unavoidable.
Yeah. And staying there with this studying, always a question which I have, what is your advice nowadays in this modern world for all the coming up students, coming up musicians with their dreams? What would be the advice which you would love to give them to become a better musician or whatever else in this music business?
Just to study seriously with a good teacher.
Yeah.
There's so much wonderful music around. When I finished the conducting school, I didn't get the chance to conduct. So what should I do? I went to university and studied musicology for 3 years. And that was a very important part of my development.
Yeah.
So I always approach a new score as a musicologist. Yeah. And then comes all the technical things, the musical things that interest me. And I think that this is back to your initial question. You have to use your head also, not only use your heart, what you like for the moment,
it's really
but
good.
Decide yourself.
Yeah, and the very last question for today is: imagine if you have the chance to do it, because nowadays we have a lot things are happening in the world. You have the environment, you have wars, you have whatever, and if you had the chance to change something, it can be something bigger or whatever, which we don't have the chance because we are just little human being. We can't pull triggers which are big. But if you had it, what would you love to change to make the world a better place?
Well, I feel so incompetent as a politician. So I would stay out of that. I would try to do it as far as I can with music.
With music, Okay.
And I feel music is such a wonderful means of communication. You don't have to tell anybody that what is in the music. They have to find out themselves. But if you are into the music, really, it comes out from your heart and from your head at the same time.
Yeah.
It can be very convincing.
Music is the best medicine.
Yeah.
I find also.
So I think I choose the good profession to change the world, but perhaps only a small world in my closest vicinity. I don't have big ambitions, but with the kind of orchestra that I play, I think we have a great impact.
Yes.
I have had the great luck to be engaged by wonderful orchestras, and always a little bit better than my former orchestra. There's a development always there. That's very stimulating, and I am so admiring these fantastic orchestras with the amount of talent that's in there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I always felt that I'm only a part of this. I want to be part of this.
Yeah.
And if I can contribute to something, I'm happy. But I don't want to be the big name there. You know.
Yeah.
I'm very happy if I can contribute a little part of it, what we make together.
Yes.
It's typical of the symphonic music.
Yeah.
You know.
And I just also thought right now, what would it be actually? Imagine if you were not a conductor. Is there anything else you would do?
I have so many interests. I love mathematics.
Okay.
I could be a
So-
mathematician.
So he would be an amazing prof on a university or science.
I could be a theologian. I could be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Many things that
Yeah.
interest me. I am so interested in many things, which is a danger. You have to be specialist in one, Rose, and that's the music field.
Yeah.
But apart from music, so many things interest me that also help me in my music making.
Yeah, I believe so. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate. We all appreciate it, I'm sure, and it's a pleasure again. Once again, and always again and again. And I'm looking forward for a lot of concerts.
Yeah.
And for tonight.
Yeah, we have one tonight.
Yes, and see you later, and hopefully see you around all the next months, years. It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
You should speak like Anders Schiff sent me a letter of congratulations. He said, please keep up at least until you are 120. He said.
Or more. Bye-bye.
A good sense of humor.